Hello and welcome back. This is probably going to be part one of a two-parter on this MINOX ZP5. In this first part, I just want to go over the scope itself and its build, its features, and what I think of it as a scope until I go into its usage and go into comparisons. So first off, this is MINOX Germany's flagship tactical scope at the moment, which is the ZP5 525x56. It's a big scope. Without a sunshade. I don't know, and I can't find if they do have a sunshade for it. I don't think they do. It's very light for its size. I'll put that up on the screen now, the exact weight of it. But compared to something like the Night Force Beasts and the other things up in that range of price, it is pretty light, which is quite nice. So it's like just about every scope now. It's a unibody anodized tube, 34mm. The turrets themselves are nice anodized metal as well. There's no plastic except for the diopter eyepiece and the two nice Tenderbrax flip-ups which come with it, which are ridiculously tough. They flip all the way down, so they do lock all the way back, and they're rugged. It comes with the adapter piece for the objective bell, so you just put it on. You don't have to get any other parts. It's quite nice. They're a really nice feature to add into this. The whole scope is built and tested in Germany, as far as I know, and it shows. Its finish is lovely, from the small throw lever that's already built into the zoom ring, to the actual finishing on the knobs, and the numbers are just lovely. Now, so I'll just go from back to front, just for the start. So you have your Tenderbrack cups. This particular one here, the reticle is in first focal plane, and it is the MP4 ret, and which is it's very nice. The reticle itself has an open top. It has a little hash mark in the top right for doing mil ranging, which is very handy. The center itself is a floating dot, and then you have your people call it a Christmas tree down below with your windage marks and your holdovers, which gives you a nice 10 extra mil of hold, which is very nice. I mean, 10 mil and 308 is basically 1,000 yards, so it's kind of nice not having to dial out to 1,000 if that's what you really want to do. A little bit more about the reticle is, while it is very fine, and I like the dot, the illumination illuminates the entire reticle at once. I think they missed out on a great opportunity to have a two-mode illumination where maybe it's off, it's on for the whole reticle, and then stage 3 would be on just the center dot, which is really nice when you get used to it, with people like Iowar and Zeiss and a lot more just doing a center dot illumination on hunting scopes. But now again, this is not a hunting scope, but it's a feature that I think they could have added just to give it a little extra edge. Would be a two-stage with just the center dot illumination. But I mean, it's fine the way it is. I don't use illuminated rets all that much. It's quite easy to see in the daytime if you do want to light it up during the day on the higher intensities, and it's on low, it's just there at nighttime, which is quite nice because that's the kind of way I want it. So it's one of those CR batteries in the back, and it's on and off through the rotation on the left side cover, which is a lot of them now, so you on off, and I'm pretty sure it does have a time delay that it will shut itself off, so you're not going to run out your battery when you forget to turn it off, like I always do. Coming up then, we have the zoom ring, past the diopter. Oh, I just want to show you the diopter itself. It has a lovely locking ring, which is missing from a lot of scopes. I like the option of having a lockable diopter, so you can spin the rear one in and out. When you have it to your position, you spin in the inside ring and it's locked. I like that feature. It's missing in far too many modern scopes, if you ask me, especially if you have a habit of spinning these things around to blot out the sun. If you're shooting into the sun, I normally spin the one around so that my off eye is covered by the end of the cap, which is I find it quite handy, and it's just a pain in some scopes you can't do that. But yeah, when this is locked, you can spin your cover and not worry about changing your adapter, which is a nice feature. Coming up a bit more, we have the zoom ring. As I said, it's very nice. 5 to 25 times zoom in, is it about 180 degrees throw? Yeah, 180 degrees for 25 times zoom, which is fine. If you wanted to put a bigger throw lever on this, it's not really needed. It would be kind of awkward just because of the throw lever that's already there. I suppose you could put it a little further back, but you could get a bit of slippage. Actually, one of the Vortex ones, the skinny new Vortex ones, would actually work because it's not wide enough that it would go over the edge. It's a little bit stiff, but not overly so. It's pretty easy to manipulate one hand when you're behind the rifle. You don't have to look up or anything. Yeah, it's nice. I like that. Moving up to the main body here with the turrets. Yeah, the left hand side, very far off the parallax, you have your illumination control where the battery is. Then you have your parallax itself, which doesn't have any numbers on it, which I'm totally fine with. I don't believe those ever are correct. And you have a full rotation in 180 degrees as well. So from 0, it's a 50 meter parallax to infinity as far as I know. Top then you have your first main turret, your elevation turret. Now, when I picked these up originally, I was asked a lot about the second rotation indication where it gets stiff. Some people actually thought that it was their turret that was malfunctioning, but it's not. It's designed that way. So you have a hard stop, 5 or 6 mil past 0, which is nice. I prefer it to be always 5, but the reason for that is if it's 5 and you need to come in really close, like 50 meters, it's usually a 3 to 5 mil hold over at 50 meters. So it's nice if you know you're at 50, you can drop down to your hard stop and you know you're right there. But yeah, it's fine. Then you're going to come up. Now, one thing that I noticed straight away is, now I don't know if this is true or not, but it looks like they kind of converted an MOA system to MILRADs, because there's 15 MRAD per turn. I mean, I would have preferred a 10 per turn. I guess it's something that you get used to, and all mine are 10, so it's just something, it's a personal thing, but I would have preferred 10 per turn, just for, I know when I'm one rotation, I'm on 10, I don't have to look at my turret. But, yeah, it's 14, so when I start going up, the clicks are very dense, very close together. The turret does have a bit of mush to it, but it doesn't actually affect the mechanics. It's just the way it sits in the indent. So we're coming up to, keep spinning until we get to 14. At 13.5, you get to this stiff point that is the second rotation indication, if you're not looking at the turret. Comes through and it stays stiff until about 14.5. So you get about a mil off this indicator. Now also, you can see on the back, there's a visual indicator, 2 in fact, left and right. So first rotation, a second rotation turns white. And then you can go all the way to the top. Now in this case, at a 100 meter 0 with the 308 on a 20 MOA rail, I have 22.5 mil on the dial. Now, in testing, which will be in the next video, you don't actually have 22.5. There's 2 mil of dead dialing at the top, 2 mil of dead space where you're off the tube. So instead of 22.5, I have 21.5 to the actual limit of the internal tube. So I prefer to have everything that's physically there. I don't like the idea that it has to come off the tube. I like having a massive amount of dial to go with, especially on the big 30 mil tubes. There's no point, I don't see a point in doing it. Now, obviously there is some reason for doing it, but it would be nice if they just stopped it there instead of you thinking you have another 2 mil of elevation on the long end. But yeah, that's it. Now, as the indicators go, I don't think it needs the stiffness for between the first and second revolutions. The visual indicator, I feel, is more than enough, and it is. So if I was dialing out, and what am I sitting at, 13.5 MRAD, I don't know, just off my head, that's something like 1,300 yards, 1,200 yards, I think, with the 308, with pretty standard ammo. it makes it hard to get exact clicks in the actual resistance area. It's nice to go fast and stop, but then when you get to the resistance, you have to kind of slow down and concentrate on it. I don't think it needs it. All it needs is the visual indicators. There's no real need for the stiffness, in my opinion. But you can come back to your nice zero stop. Now, they don't have locking turrets, which I think they kind of missed out on. It's nice to have locking turrets. They are quite low turrets. They're not going to get snagged in anything, but I'm a fan of locking turrets. Especially, I got caught out once upon a time, deer stalking with the rifle slung on my back, and I didn't actually shoot anything that day, but the next day I went to zero. My turret was spun 10 mil, so I actually was, it had 6 mil and then I had some over travel, so it was actually 6 mil left I was, and it looked just like I was on my windage zero, but it was a whole rotation backwards. So it's nice to have locking turrets, especially if you're carrying it around on your back and you're not just having it in a ruck or something like that. But one thing I do like about this, it gives you a lot of windage left and right. There is a lot of windage to play with, well over 6 in each direction, and I think you have another 5 or 6 or 7 on the internal reticle. So you get a lot of windage, which is really nice. I know the Vortex Gen 2 it's not bad, but it doesn't have that much left and right. I know the Beast has quite a lot, and the Attack R's, but that's one thing the Vortex Gen 2 is a bit short on, is windage left and right. Again, not a big deal when you can dial and you have all the holdage marks, but it's something I'd like to see on most scopes, is to give it at least, I don't know, possibly 6 or 7 each side instead of getting shortened. But moving forwards, you have the bell itself. It's good and strong. You have your tender bracts in the front, and you have your locking rings that actually hold on your tender bracket cap, and you have your lenses inside. Now your lenses are coated in all the new fancy high density coatings, as well as those anti-grease and all those other coatings, which is very nice, and it does mean that it's easier to clean, and it makes an awful difference to clarity out far. Now, because this scope is at the price range where it is, which is in around 2,400 to 2,600 euro, it's up there. It's up there with the best of them, but its glass is second to none. I can show you a quick comparison of looking at a mile. Now, when the screenshots are small, there's not a whole lot in them, but if you go right in, you can see detail with this at a mile that you just cannot see on anything other than maybe high-end spotting scopes, or ridiculously way more like the 3K, 4K scopes. The glass in this is amazing, and that is what you're paying for with a scope like this. You're paying for it being mechanically accurate, and you're paying for the good glass, and you really do get it with this. The absolute clarity, there is no rainbowing, no chromatic distortion. Everything is just straight, clear lines. There's no fuzzy edges no matter how far out you go. There's no color bleed. It is really top end glass. And now, after saying that, it does have a problem. It doesn't like dark weather. I don't know, it on a sunny day, its light transmission is amazing, and on low power it's amazing, but once you start dialing up a bit, past, let's say, 10 times zoom, it starts to darken out. You'll see it much better in the next video where I show the low light, where a lot of scopes will more or less right up to half of their zoom range will increase the amount of light you see. After 10 times zoom on this, it doesn't really hold up to low light transmission as much as it should with its big tube and its big forend. Our objective, it should really transfer a little bit more light. Now, the other only problem I found with it was there's a bit of, well, it's not tunneling at high power, but when you're up high power, you really gotta get a good cheek weld, and you gotta be square behind it, because if you're off a bit, There's a little bit of shadowing. It's just not as easy to be behind as some other scopes. It's totally fine if you're set up for you, and you have your cheek rest and everything is nice and square. You'll be right on there. But if you have to move around or you have to shoot in different positions, on high power, it's not the greatest. Now, there's one thing I do want to talk about, and it is the calibration of the turrets. We're going to go into it more in detail in the next video when I show you the calibration tests and show you the error that I'm talking about. But there is a purpose 2% error built into this device. When I did my tall target calibration test, I was getting errors at about 8 to 10 mil, where like 10 would be 9.8. I just wasn't getting what I was dialing. So I got onto MINOX. MINOX put me to the people who assemble and calibrate the scopes, and he assured me with a lot of science that it's the way the light comes into the long tube with the really big fat glass, that if you're dialing very high for a short distance, which in real life you wouldn't dial 10 mil to shoot 100 yards, there is percentage of error built into it so that it's correct at its proper distance. So if I dialed 10 mil and I was looking at 100 yards, it's going to give me, let's say, a 9.8 mil. But if I dialed 10 mil and I was parallaxed for 1,000 yards, it'll give me 10 mil perfectly. It's to do with the way the light comes through the parallax and the thickness and the length of the tube. And he assured me that in the factory, when they're assembled and they're put through the optical tests, that they are perfect before they leave. And I believe him, because when I originally sent the email, I said it backwards. I was saying 10 was getting me 10.2, when it's actually opposite. He said, "Are you sure you mean this? Do you not mean this?" And I said, "Yes, that's what I meant. I said it in reverse." And then he explained it perfectly. So he knew exactly what I was trying to say. I just said it in reverse, which proves even more that it's something that they have built in. It's not I believe at the email he said it's a feature, not a bug. So he assured me that no matter what you dial and you're parallaxed for, you are going to get the correct dial on your turret. You're not going to get an error. But if you're dialed for 800 but you're actually shooting at 100, you're going to get a little bit of error, because that's not what the scope was designed for. But that's not what you do in normal life anyway. So it is tracking 100%. It has the crispest, clearest, best color glass I've ever seen, and it is a lovely built scope. Little bit of problems with that first rotation indicator, and its finicky eye box. Its parallax is not finicky at all. It gets there. It's perfect. But we're going to go more into the problems, and I'll show you what I mean in the next video, where we go over its performance instead of just how it looks sitting on a table, and its features. So I'll catch you in the next video in a couple of days, and we'll go through the low light, we'll go through the tracking tests, we'll go through the tall target tests, and hopefully I'll be able to go through more of the 2% error that's built into this thing, so it does track perfectly at longer ranges and not just on a test sheet of paper. So I'll see you guys next time. If you want to subscribe, I have this plus a load more stuff coming up, and there's going to be lots of videos on matches coming up. The stag matches are getting very interesting. They're getting a lot more dynamic, and they're not just shooting rings of paper anymore, which is great fun, because they are hunting type matches, and you're not going to be just shooting rings of paper in the wild. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.